What's going on, everyone? So, the Lakers need a center. Chicago Bulls are very likely going to have a fire sale. So let's talk about the potential of the Los Angeles Lakers trading for Nikola Vucevic. Now, I think he makes a lot of sense for the Lakers. There are a couple things about Vu, particularly his age. He'll be 34 in October, so right when the season begins. It's not necessarily, his skill set, I don't think that'll be a huge problem. But he's also making $20 million, and he still has multiple years. So, you look at Clint Capella, somebody that I talked about. Clint Capella is making $20 million, but he's also an expiring deal. So you could take him on to kind of shed some salary for, the following season, maybe make some tweaks and do some things. If Clint Capella works, you could give him a new contract on a lesser deal, but gives you a little more flexibility, right? The Vu, he would have one more year. So he's making $20 million this year, and then it bumps up to just a hair under $22 million. I don't believe he's worth that amount, which, even when Chicago went and gave him that contract, everyone was like, what are you doing? Right? But Chicago isn't really the standard for great decisions. So Vu being $20 million, you could go trade Rui and, Jalen Hood-Schifino, and boom, there you go. Right? So it's not hard to get there. The Lakers can get there. It's just what else would it take? And, can you get, if you could do Rui Hachimura, Jalen Hood-Schifino in 2 or 3 seconds for Vu, sure, I would take that all day. But Chicago kind of sounds like they're overpricing guys, and, they wanted multiple firsts for Vu because they gave up a bunch for Vu. But again, this was also several years ago. He was younger in a different position, and he was at the time, a 20-12 guy, where now, he's still a 18-10, 18-11 guy. And he is that big body center that can make plays out of the post. You can dump the ball down to him. He is a very underrated passer in that regard. He can play out of the post, keep the ball moving. He's a guy that can bang with the big boys. He's a guy that you can dump the ball down to, and he can go to work and just go get you a bucket, which could go a long way for the Lakers. And he's a guy that can stretch the floor. Now, last year, he really wasn't. Last year, he only shot 29% from three, which was terrible. So if he's shooting that, it's a problem. But pretty much all the other years, he's been, 34 to, he's even had seasons where he shot 40% from three. So if he could just get to even league average, right? Say 35, 36% from 3-point range, not even necessarily 40%. I would love if he could get to 40%. That would be great. But, again, if he could just get to, say, 36, 35%, I think that'd be huge. His ability to stretch the floor, his ability to pass and make plays, right? He can find a cutter. JJ Redick wants to do kind of a free-flowing ball movement, have LeBron play off ball more. I imagine that you're going to have multiple sets where you just stretch the floor, right? So I do think Vu would fit right in with a lot of, more likely than not, the Lakers' offensive philosophies and the type of actions that they want to run. And then also him just playing alongside Anthony Davis and LeBron James. I think those looks, even from 3-point range, I think he'd just get better quality looks. I also think the attention and everything that they would pull from Vu, I think, would go a long way, right? You could slot him and Anthony Davis together. The defensive side of things, now, his defensive rating looks good, but he's not this great, elite defensive guy. He can, block a shot if it's in the area, right? He can move. He's a guy that, actually has, for a big fella, actually has a pretty good first step. But again, he's not this elite shot blocker, this elite defensive guy. He's at times can be a liability on that side of things, but he is very skilled. And depending on what his market is, he could be cheap enough to where maybe it makes sense, right? But the good thing is you're seeing and hearing all of these center names becoming available, and all of the top teams basically already have their guy. So it's kind of the middle of the pack teams, or the younger teams that maybe are hey, we could use a veteran center to come in, right? So with there kind of being this shuffling of centers, it's very possible that one could fall into the Lakers' lap and the Lakers could get him very cheap. Now, obviously, there's even like, Valanciunas and then Andre Drummond that they could bring in, which you can make the argument, do you just go get Valanciunas for free? Right? Do you just like, if he's willing to take, say, the taxpayer mid-level exception, right? If you get him for the tax, like, better that than having to trade, and then you can save Rui and Jalen Trifino in seconds or whatever to go get Vu, or does, because again, like Valanciunas is very similar in a lot of ways. He can stretch the floor, again, not this like super elite 3-point shooter, but he's a guy that can score around the rim, rebound the basketball, bang with the big boys, right? He can dump the ball down to, he can make plays out of the post, get another kind of guy that's not talked about for his playmaking abilities out of the post at times. So, again, it's just like kind of weigh your options. But like if Valanciunas ends up getting picked up elsewhere, and let's say Andre Drummond gets picked up elsewhere, well, now you're looking at the trade market, and it's like, okay, well, do you take on a Clint Capella if it's part of a DeJounte Murray deal, which is something I've talked about. Like, I wouldn't want to trade for Clint Capella straight up, but if you could work it out to where you get and land, say, a DeJounte Murray, then sure, bring him on. Plus, Clint Capella, again, is expiring contract. Where Vu, kind of feel the same way, right? Like, if you're trading straight up for him, I don't really like it, but, like, can you get him and, like, DeMar DeRozan, maybe on a sign and trade? The problem is then you'd be hard capped, so it just kind of makes things tough in that regard. I mean, you could... The problem is like Zach LaVine and Vu, right? Because I would love that, right? You give me Zach LaVine and his scoring ability, and then Vu down low, as you could go, at that point, you could go Austin Reeves, Zach LaVine, Jared Vanderbilt, or you'd probably have to go LeBron James. Like LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Vu. Like, I don't know, like you do some mix match, or you'd have to basically give up everybody, right? But I don't even know if the Lakers can get there, because you're talking $20 million for Valanciunas, or not Valanciunas, for Vucevic, and then you're talking, $43 million for Zach LaVine. Talking now at that point, $63 million that you'd have to get to. If D'Lo opted in, talking 18.7, right, 18.6. Gabe Vincent gives you another. So basically, you'd have to trade basically every Vando, Reeves, Rui. Problem is, I don't think that they would trade Reeves. So I don't know if you could get something like that. But could you do like Vu and like Patrick Williams? Give you like a versatile kind of 3-and-D guy that a lot of it has just been kind of his injury history. Do you kind of take a flyer with him? He's young still, to where he can maybe, if it works out, he could be a longevity piece, right? Maybe get somebody back that can kind of replace Rui, right? If you're shipping out Rui, kind of replace him and kind of get him involved, because he's not making like a ton of money, so like just would be easy to make it work. I don't know, like, again, Vu would probably be towards the bottom of my list, but I wouldn't hate it. Like, if we got news tomorrow that the Lakers traded for Vu, like, I'd be pumped about it, because again, it's a legit 17 to 20 point a game guy. And he was playing alongside DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Kobe White, right? He was playing alongside a bunch of scorers, and he was still able to go get you, 17 and 11. Right? He'd be able to rebound, again, be able to make plays. I think his versatility could go a long way. And then being slotted alongside Anthony Davis as that blind side, that weak side defender, I think, again, like, he could make up for a lot and really help on the defensive side and his ability to close out and stuff. And then you can make an argument that, like, yes, he has 2 years on his deal, right? But the following year, so not this year coming up, he'd be making he'd be a $21 million expiring contract that maybe you could do something in the offseason or at the trade deadline to where it's like, hey, maybe we could get this guy. Or, if it doesn't work, I think you'd be able to move him, right? Because, like, let's say, Vu, he just has his struggles with the Lakers, and maybe him and Anthony Davis aren't the best fit, or, let's say that he does become a liability, right? Like, you get through the year and you could basically unload him, where, if you're getting, say, a Valanciunas, although he'd be a tenth of what, Vu would be making, Valanciunas, if it doesn't work, you're probably giving him a couple years, and that contract wouldn't be as sizable to then go move later on. And even if it does work, you could still look at Vu and go, well, he'll be 35 this year. Can we unload him and maybe make some move to go get maybe a younger center or better now piece? Or let's say the Lakers draft Zach Edey, right? Like, I think Zach Edey could learn a lot from Vu because they have a very similar skill set. That back to the basket, hopefully stretch the floor a little bit with Zach Edey. He showed some of that in the combine. I think Vu could be a guy that could work with Zach Edey and kind of help him a little more, maybe even help with the passing ability. Again, I don't hate it. It's not like my favorite. I don't love it, but I also don't hate it, right? Just to me, it boiled down to like what would be the cost. If Chicago just kind of wants to salary dump him, and they're like, hey, like, basically take him off his hands, or like maybe they're like, hey, we really do like Rui, right? Like Rui makes sense for us, especially because we're kind of hitting this reset button, right? So like give us Rui, JHS, like I said, and then a first or something. Or maybe they don't want JHS, maybe throw in, Christian Wood on an expiring or something, and it's like, okay, there now you got Wood and you get, Rui, and send back Vu, and then, give up a second or two, something like that. I don't hate it, but they're like, no, we have to get a first or multiple firsts, which I don't think they're going to get for him, then I think you just stay away. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you like the idea of Nikola Vucevic? Do you think no, stay away from him? Too much money, not the guy we need. Again, he's a big body center, right? And that's kind of what the Lakers need, big body center. But do you feel that same way? Again, how do you feel? What your thoughts are? Let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Helps me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.